Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Esteemed Center Stage with Global Thought Leaders, an initiative by RightSource Global. I am Zishan Pathan, Executive Director at RightSource Global and a Council Member of Global Thought Leaders. I have my colleague and friend Heval Mehta, Chief Growth Officer at RSG, who will accompany me on this center stage today. Global Thought Leaders is a platform for industry titans to share their experiences, thoughts, ideas, and best practices in order to inspire one another and future leaders. In a nutshell, we attempt to encapsulate the multi-decadal learnings acquired by these industry leaders. We also hope that by conducting these center stage interviews, we can bring together a global community of eminent personalities. By bringing together such visionaries on one platform, we hope to play a part in inspiring the lives of other leaders. Great learnings from great leaders undoubtedly assist everyone by identifying, nurturing, and using the trade secrets that are proven success formally for many. And this is what we trust these sessions are, a gathering of industry stalwarts and knowledge sharing community. We have one such industry stalwart on the center stage with us today, Reetu Raina. Reetu is a renowned name in the function of human resource, cutting across various industries. I would request Heval to introduce our eminent personality today.
Well, thank you so much, Zishan, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to introduce Ritu. Well, trust me, ideally, she does not require any introduction. The name is enough, but still to talk about Ritu a little bit, it's an honor. Ritu is a professional with over 2 decades of experience in HR leadership across industries such as IT, banking, and financial services and telecom, is a force to be reckoned with within her field. Her expertise in organizational design, HR digitalization, workforce planning, mergers and acquisition, leadership development and succession, employee engagement, HR analytics, and diversity and inclusion makes her among the most accomplished leader in her field. Her passion for enhancing employee capabilities and cultivating a productive and inclusive workforce has gained her multiple accolades. She was facilitated by Maneka Gandhi with Observe Now Heroes HR Awards for HR leadership and adjudged as Amazing Women of AMDOCS for driving a diversity program named Inspire. She was also recognized as among 6 senior HR professionals globally as an HR excellent leaders at AMDOCS. Well, there are many things to discuss, learn, and talk with Reetu Raina on this center stage. We are honored to have you today, Reetu. So warm welcome and fantastic to have you on the center stage today. Thank you, Reetu.
Thank you, Heval, and thank you, Zish. It's absolutely honored to be here and sharing the experiences. I'm really thrilled and excited for this conversation.
Great, we are excited too, Ritu. And Ritu, you inspire many senior folks and budding leaders of the country today. Well, we would like to really know that who inspired you to achieve this fit?
I think, I was fortunate enough to have met many HR leaders, business leaders, and mentors in my career journey. But I think there are some who always leave a mark with you. And when you're in the beginning of your career, you're too impressionable. So I think I met Reetu Raina, not related to me. She was a senior executive with Citibank way back then. Now she's with Harvard Business School. And I remember my first meeting with her, and I was just a trainee, how it really kind of changed and formulated that as I grow in my career, I should be intelligent, I should be sharp, but I should be at the same time very humble. And that image stayed with me forever, I would say. And every time I would just take a decision or make a change, I would always ask myself, how would she do it? And personally, I think my father had a huge, I would say, impact on me because he brought me up as a very strong person rather than, a girl or a boy, whatever you call it. And his courage in every decision making, I think that left an impressionable things on my mind. And it actually, pushed me to drive and achieve more and more.
Great to know that, Ritu. Ritu, I just was a little curious about your role, um, because you played a very critical and vital role in mergers and acquisitions of various organizations. So, how important is the role of an HR during mergers and acquisitions? What are the significant points to be considered as an HR leader during such a critical organizational restructuring?
I think whatever I'm going to say, Zishan, is not a hidden truth. It's everyone knows it. But I would like to add my personal experiences to it. And when I say so, I'm sure the data says it. 70 to 90% of the mergers and acquisitions do not really go well as desired. Now, the question which comes to everyone's mind, an amazing integration done on a balance sheet, an amazing integration done on a business model, process. But why does it fail? I think the reason it fails is that when you acquire a company, you are looking at the value proposition of a merged entity. And the value proposition of the merged entity can be only achieved if everyone would work as you had wished. But when we merge the two entities, it's not robots. You are merging two cultures, two organizations who think, behave, and act in a particular way. And since most of the times we are smart in doing balance sheet and we miss on this part of integration of two entities from a cultural perspective, it really fails. And here I would say HR has to play a very, very important role. And I would not name for the sake of not making it public, but I have seen successful acquisition in my career. I have seen unsuccessful. So I will generalize them into two. I think the successful ones were done amazingly well because even before execution becomes public, you already have a project plan in place, which has an important component about communication, which has an important component about process integration in terms of HR processes, finance processes, and it has a very important component, which is about the trust building between two merged entities. And I saw this acquisition, which really went very well and it went successful. And I did see acquisitions where I would say simple things like process integration. It's very hygienic, but it was taken granted. For example, if you have a role structure in one organization, how would other organizations see it? Are you managing? Are you, creating those bands, or you want to give them their own space? It looks very trivial and simple, but it is not. What when you go to an employee, he has one identity with the organization is the role or the definition, and suddenly he's a change. That starts a trigger point. And then eventually, how much you're communicating, have you invested in trust building? Because if you do not do these three things, eventually you take things granted. And we are embodiment of humans in the organizations. We have our own way of reacting to it. And those reactions come in the way of disasters, you see.
Great to know that. In fact, I'm really enjoying this conversation. Essentially, when you mentioned that it's not just a merger of the balance sheets, but it is essentially the merger of the cultures of these two organizations, right? So, again, picking some points from the first question itself, Ritu, that you mentioned that your life got inspired by, your mentors and your family members. So, what are the key traits of your personality you imbibed and nurtured over years that you believe have added value to your growth?
No, I think I always had a very strong orientation towards learning, and it only became a boon for me over a period of time. Because whatever stage of career you reach, whichever business you go, if you do not focus on learning, and I think one should never have a mindset that I have arrived. We are never arrived. So I think that learning orientation really helped me to stay abreast with the businesses I was working with, to stay abreast with the new practices which were coming in my industry. It never helped me to take rest. I kept reinventing things around me. I think the second thing was, I'm a very structured person. I like things prim and proper in my life. I should have a graph in front of me with a plan and Excel sheet. But as I grew in my career, I realized, Excels don't work, project plans don't work. It's a different story altogether which comes your way. I think I had my own journey of learning with dealing with ambiguity. Because, since I've always wanted things to be very much in control manner, ambiguity throws a loss of control at you. And when you're at a loss of control, you really are not yourself. And as a leader, your responsibility is people down the line. They're asking you every time for a decision. They're asking every time you for a clarity. So I think I went through this journey with myself, where I adapted myself. There is a gradients of gray. Live with that gradients. From that gradients, whatever black and white you can pick, communicate it to the people down the line so that they feel comfortable. Create that, I would say small elements of clarity with your stakeholders. Of course, it was not easy for me because, being a very structured person, I had to deal with my own internal struggle. But I think over a period of time, I kind of lived with it. And third, which is not last but the least, I think for me today also, if you ask me, Zishan, your success mantra is not you. Your success mantra is your team. You can just, create great theories, but if you're not able to execute those theories, you will never be successful. So for me, what I have, kept in mind, one of the drivers for me is that, am I able to inspire my team? Am I able to inspire people around me? And when you actually have to really inspire, you can inspire them through showing a vision. But at the same time, as a leader, you have to be really resilient. Because, when you are dealing with the management, when you're dealing with the business outside, you have many challenges. And if you are not resilient and you don't have shock absorbers within you, and then give the people the right direction, you will not be able to inspire them. I think the third mantra for me is you have to inspire your team. You are responsible for them. Leader's role is not easy because, getting your work done is easy. But, when you are responsible for people, you have to ensure their safety. You have to ensure their success. I think that's the third mantra for me, I would say, Jishan.
Great, Ritu. You mentioned about learning, and you also mentioned that learning is a continuous process, right? And with the advent of new technology like artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, cloud, and IoT, how do you see the industry revolution 4.0 impacting the human resource function of various industries? Because that requires a continuous learning.
I would say, Dishan, it's a big good news for HR. When I say it's a big good news, just go behind a bit, go to 80s. What was the world of 80s? You had computers coming in, right? And suddenly I recollect, when I was young, in a college, we had to remove shoes to go to the computer room. That was the era, right? Because there is something magical inside. You don't have to, get with the shoes. But lights on the, others on the serious side, it was bringing a revolution. And if you look at the era of 90s, internet really kind of revamped it whole because you have this intelligent smart programming machine, then you have this connectivity, which is just creating a geometrical progression. Now, what happened as we were moving to 4.0 was that the basic DNA of the industry was changing, and it was changing. Capital is not the power. Technology is not the power. Knowledge started becoming the power. Just see the era from 2000 to 2010. It was an era of disruption of business models because I have a great idea, I can collaborate, I can create a revolution. And for businesses, their value proposition was how are they innovating and keeping ahead with the curve. And lifespan of the organizations started becoming shortened. Now, in this whole process, what was the key element who was driving businesses? Whether it is knowledge, whether it is disruption, whether it is innovation, it was this employee in the organizations. So it started actually becoming an edge in 4.0. But as humans, we are, I would say, captives of our habits. We knew it at the back of our head, but never acknowledged it. So we said, let the world move as it is. We have a structured process. I have an HR policy. People are supposed to abide by it. But, COVID happens. And what does COVID do? It just fast forwards the adaptation. And when it fast forwards the adaptation, He says, hey, look, your business model doesn't require an office space. Your business model can be done through that small window on your Zoom screen. It's good enough. He needs to have a machine and an internet connectivity. So in this whole process, if you see, one of the biggest change which happened post-COVID was HR no more was enabling. It started becoming a driving function. Yes, it should have happened in 2010, but it only got fast forwarded because of the pandemic. Now, if I look at the role of the HR, I'm sure you would be reading this in the news, is that the CEOs say, I am held back to achieve my business results because I have a crunch on the talent. Would you hear this many, many years back? Answer is no. I have a huge problem with retention. And then the reactive measures through money. It doesn't work that way. So I think the way I would say CFO or a financial head's role was important because it was giving money to the organizations. But to make that money, there is a very important component, which is person over there. And HR has a very important role in defining the strategies of the organization to attract, retain, and develop this talent. I think that is how I see the role going forward. And it's a good news for me as an HR leader because people have started acknowledging it, accepting it. And that's how you see a change in the industry, where actually CHROs have started taking business roles, unheard of 15, 20 years back.
Definitely, definitely. Wonderful insights, Ritu. People do really discuss about the successes of various senior folks, and in fact, we also do. But people know about your success definitely. However, we would like to know the top three challenges. Definitely, you would have faced multiple challenges, but we really would like to know the top three challenges you faced in the complete journey and how did you overcome them?
Zishan, when I started my career, I started from Mumbai and I was working with the most renowned Indian brands way back then. And whether you talk about Tata AIG, Godrej, HDFC Bank. So I had an advantage which I didn't knew because I never saw the other side of it. When I say other side of it, I was always working in the headquarter. CEO was one floor away. CHRO, CFO was one floor away. So I felt maybe the world works like this. Yeah. So I would see I am formulating the strategies, I am formulating the processes across India, across globe, it's getting implemented. Of course, it gives you a sense of power and it also gives you a sense of success and accomplishment. I think the first challenge I faced is when I actually moved away from HDFC to AMDOCS because for the first time, I've moved out of BFSI. That was the industry where I had been for so long. I got into IT, which is a very different creature altogether. And I moved to a India delivery center. And my role was very new because, AMDOCS was growing in India and they wanted a leader who could help them to build the capability for them to grow up in India. And suddenly I started realizing my voice is not getting heard because I am in IDC, India Delivery Center. I have to make an influence, the HQ, to make the changes, which was very, I could just walk in anyone's cabin in HDFC or Tata AIG and get it done. So I think I went through my own turmoil and journey during this process. But one thing I said that I will focus on is on the value creation. And I kept creating value for the organization. And I think the magic it did for me, even though I was based out of India, I started becoming an influencer within the organization without, being, even though I was away from the HQ. And that was a big realization for me. Does it really matter which stage or I would say level of the organization you are? As a professional, if you focus on value creation, it will always kind of, help you to create the impact overall. So this was the one of the challenges I faced. I would say the second challenge which I felt was, I remember first decade of my career, a business leader or a CEO or a business head would come to us. I require so many people. Please get them and hire them, right? That was the first thing. That was the only thing they would come to HR, right? Suddenly, attrition has increased. Have you done the attrition analysis? Are you taking the exit interviews? And I would see HR missing many times from I would say, the important conversations. And I really kind of didn't like it a lot. And I think what I felt that I should be a true business partner to the business. And do I have knowledge enough? And because of my learning orientation, I kept focusing on that a lot. And I ensured in the second decade of my career, I have studied the balance sheet of the company. I have studied the business model of the company. I am able to talk to the CEO or the CFO or any business leader I am working with in their terminology, because we sometimes ignore. Terminology is very, very important, Zishan, because when you talk, your term sets a program in my head, and I decide whether I should listen to you further or not. So I think acceptance as a business partner, I went through my own curve. And I would say, since I was very cognizant of this fact, it always gave me edge over others. Because leaders would always say, no, no, she'll understand. Let me explain to her what I'm looking for, because she will not give me any HR jargon. I think it really helped me, because I felt, and my motivation to do this was, I felt I was away from the table. And I wanted to be there with for the conversation. And that is how, I kind of moved in this direction. I think the third challenge I think I've faced is, if I look 10 years back, my kids were young. I have two kids, a boy and a girl. And I was growing in my career. And when you grow in your career, it's not only about your work, it's also about your acceptance in the organization overall. And there's a lot of socialization which keeps happening. There's a lot of networking which keeps happening, which doesn't come very naturally to women. And she always has this hammer at the back of the head. I have to go home, right? I think I went through a struggle for myself during this time. I recollect the times when I would say, I would miss the cocktail, but I have to be back to Mumbai. I will take the late last night flight. I would sleep for 4 hours. Next day I would go to office, right? With the dark circles under my eyes. But eventually, as I started growing, I started realizing that there are two types of networks. And it's like I would say, success mantra IQ. One is the networking you do and the social network in your organization. Second is a network you create by connecting with people one-on-one. Because I think socialization setup, you can have nice conversation, but do you really connect with the people well? So I think I focused on the second muscle, because I had to balance, and you cannot have it all. You cannot have it all. You have just 12 hours, which everyone has. So I think I used my own strategy of creating those one-on-one connections, sometimes letting go my family priority to go for that meeting or to go for that socialization, but not always, and creating the balance between these two. So I think I went through my journey, but eventually I think I have not done the best, but I have done somehow better.
Great. So amazing to hear all those, real life experiential things from you, Ritu. In fact, coming to a question which is a bit different from the conversation that we are having now currently, is related to the industry. Now, the flavor of the season is corporate governance, ESG, and likewise. And I really like to put across this question to you, as you are a corporate governance expert now. We would like to know your perspective and the benefits of having an HR leader on the boards of the companies.
I think, it's very, very important. And when I say it, I really mean it, because having experienced in working very closely with the board, I see the challenges which they go through, and, in helping the company to navigate, because people's strategy is no more a soft strategy now. It is a real driving strategy. And I'm sure, there are many stories from the market in the past 4 to 5 years where businesses and the board went through a tough turmoil, not because there was a problem in the business model. There was no problem in the financial model, because they could not actually get people together and move in a unified direction. I think from that perspective, when an organization, because I see the role of board at two levels. One is, of course, the validation and sign off of the strategy, and second is the governance. When you talk about validation and sign off of the strategy, as an HR leader, you can bring a perspective to the board that if they want to deliver this business value, what could be the possible challenges will come up as a part of their people strategy. Let me give a very simple example. An organization wants to expand its business globally. When I say globally, what does it mean having global offices? Is that the right strategy? Or you want to create a seeding centers? How does the laws and regulations differ so that you do not get into any problem which can later on become an issue for the organization? So that is where there's a lot of value as an HR leader can bring. I think the second important thing is that as organizations are, actually becoming global and creating these value proposition for the customers across the geography, there is one more parallel thing which is happening. What is the parallel thing happening is the concept of employment is changing. If you look, I'm sure you would have seen these words on the LinkedIn. They say complete work from home, hybrid model, complete work from office, unheard of terminologies. Now, the backside of these terminologies is you have full-time work, you have full-time employees, you have contractual, you have quasi employees, you have employees who are gig and working with multiple, companies. Now, in your business strategy, you have a placeholder. I will create this value proposition or a product or an offering for the customers, which will be delivered in next whatever years. Now, to deliver that, you will require a different set of people. As an HR leader, you have an insight that this is niche in the market. They may not be able to hire this way. They will have to go a different way of employment here. They will have to do this differently or through an outsourcing model. Now, these parts of the people strategy, if ignored, can really create a fail of execution. But if you have a person from HR on the board, he can really bring the insight to you much in advance and you're ready for it. And I would say this is the part of the first part. The second around the governance, because every organization goes through its stages of development. And a newly formed organization is trying to bring the stakeholders together. An organization at a mid stage is trying to make that leap of faith and move to this S-curve. Every stage as an HR leader, you will be able to actually talk about the dynamics which the organization must be going through, and also helping them to give insights which can really help them to formulate their own strategy. So from that perspective, I think it's very, very important, I would say imperative, to have an HR leader on the board.
Wonderful. There's a lot to learn, Ritu, from this conversation. And in fact, I'm thinking of asking more and more questions to you now. However, due to paucity of time, we would really like to know that you're aware of the fact that we have been building this global thought leaders community for cross-pollination of knowledge and a community of independent directors for having better governance in the country. What are your thoughts about these initiatives taken by us?
I think, first of all, I really want to thank you all, because this is a great initiative. And I will just tell you it more from a practical side of point of view. In the market, you have this supplier and you have a demand. You have a supply and you have a demand, right? And unfortunately, there is no linking happening between the two. Let me give a very simple example. As there's a mandate that you should have a women director on the board. When a company needs a women director, what do? They go to their few people, they ask them, there's a small network they have. Do they get best out of it? Answer is no. They get most possible, I would say, available and within the reach. Available and within the reach doesn't mean the talent, right? I think what you are doing is an amazing cause, because you are actually creating that connection. When you are creating that connection, because there's a potential pool who could be best for the companies. But now there has to be an effort made to create that pool, nurture that pool, develop the pool, and navigate that pool. So eventually what happens that where you have the talent who can be put onto the board or who can be put onto those leadership roles, and there is a requirement, when they match each other, that is, I would say, a great deal you guys are doing. And I'm really thankful for even thinking about it. Because I think people who are the people who become, I would say, pioneers or leaders, who can see beyond obvious. If you look today, everyone knows we need a women director on board. Everyone might be thinking we should have an HR director on board. But what are we doing? Going to the same old methodology. Network, first degree, second degree, LinkedIn, right? Who is really nurturing and investing? And I think that is what I would say, Hival, and you are doing is nurturing and developing it. Because if we do that way, it is a great value addition to the business. Because when you will propose to someone, to them, it's not that it is just a name which came from your sleeves. No, it is someone you have focused and you have helped to develop who could be the right person for that. And I think it's a great cause to build more capable organizations, because capability of the organization is across the pyramid, not only entry, mid, and top. It's also how the governing body, how the board acts. And I'm sure with so many things happening, we are feeling it all the more important. So I think by doing that, it can really help us to move forward. And again, I'm thanking you for this cause.
Well, really appreciate Ritu for those wonderful lines. And rightly, Zishan mentioned in one of his questions, he addressed you as now a corporate governance expert. And yes, the way things came to us right now, it was really fabulous, I would say. Well, in center stage, we not only speak with the industry stalwarts, we also learn, we understand how they think, the business function is actually taken care, and after making that process, how it is actually executed. It's fantastic. Well, Ritu, a few important pointers that I really loved, and Zishan picked one of them. Learning is a continuous process. That's the only reason right now women independent directors, one women independent director mandatory on board. And now if you check, many leaders, women leaders, I would say, are back into that learning is never ending process, and it should be a continued process, and they are really opting for it. I really liked, Ritu, when you said that your success mantra is not you, it's your team. Till date, I was just going through this one fabulous statement that if you win, it's your team who gave that victory to you. But if you lose, it's leader who lost the battle. But this is something really good. Made it positive that your success mantra is not you, but it's your team. And yes, the best quality of a leader is that a leader is someone who is able to inspire and motivate his team, and definitely responsible for his success. Well, fabulous conversation with Ritu Raina, and I'm sure the center stage is really going to help leaders in understanding Ritu, and also future leaders who would want to grow and take their career to the next level by just watching the center stage. It's really going to help everyone. So thank you so much, Ritu, for this valuable insights, and have a fantastic day, folks.
Thank you.